For over 5,000 years, cannabis was used as medicine across the ancient world. Then in less than 100 years, it became one of the most criminalized plants on earth. Today, we're starting to get back to our roots. So what happened? Our quest will take us back, near the dawn of written history. In ancient China, around 2700 BC, we find evidence of an emperor named Shennong, who is credited with being the father of Chinese medicine, and the works that would later become the divine farmer's Materia Medica. At this period in time, China's usage mostly centered around seeds. Flour and resin was used rarely, carefully, and it was noted for being stronger and psychoactive. The philosophy of the time was about balance, medicine in moderation, poison in excess. As we journey to India in 2000 BC, we find Vedic religions using cannabis in medicinal ways. An ancient text known as the Atharva Veda is composed over a series of centuries. Some of these pieces, like the one you see here, are written on palm leaves, birch bark, or homemade paper. And at the time, cannabis was considered one of the 5 most sacred plants on earth. Some of the most noted uses for the time were for anxiety, pain, gynecological issues, spiritual and ritual use, as well as appetite stimulant. As we diverge into the sands of Egypt in 1700 BC, we have the Ramesseum papyrus. With it, we find documented uses for gynecological pain, uterine inflammation, topical pastes mixed with honey, oils, and plant bases. We also have evidence in the Ebers papyrus in 1500 BC for similar uses, as well as eye salves used for glaucoma and other 200 remedies within the text. Which brings us to the Berlin papyrus of around 1300 BC, which continues to demonstrate the medicinal uses throughout Egypt's history. Jump forward in time to about 500 BC and we arrive in ancient Greece, where we see that Herodotus records that Scythian usage of burning seeds on stones for therapeutic and psychoactive use marks the earliest written account of inhalation use of cannabis. As we move into the 1st century AD in Greece, we meet Dioscorides. Known as the father of pharmacology, he would be known as writing the De Materia Medica, cataloging over 600 medicinal plants that would be used for over 1,500 years as a medical reference. As we move from Greece to Rome, we meet Pliny the Elder in 77 AD. Pliny gives us the Naturalis Historia, which would be used as an encyclopedic reference bridge between earlier Greek medicine and medieval pharmacology. Which brings us to good old Galen. Galen is responsible for integrating medical cannabis into a physiological medical framework, and his work would dominate Western medicine for the next 1,300 years. Now we get to hop across the pond over to early Western medicine. We begin with Sir William O'Shaughnessy. In the 1830s, this Irish doctor was studying in India and found that cannabis extracts could be used to help with the symptoms of cholera. His work helped pave the way for what would be known as the Golden Age of medicinal cannabis. Here we have chlorodyne, which was used to treat cholera, diarrhea, cough, as well as insomnia. Here we have bromidia, which was also another legal cannabis medicine that was used for pain as a sedative and for restlessness. In 1850, cannabis was added to the U.S. pharmacopoeia, and by the late 1800s, extracts were sold in pharmacies and doctor's offices all over Europe and in the United States. Matter of fact, after opiates, cannabis was the second most common ingredient in medicines offered in both Europe and America. As we move into the 1900s, the age of prohibition begins. And it all kind of starts with this guy, Harry Anslinger, who would become the first commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Around the time of the Great Depression, political fear campaigns ramped up, racialized propaganda, anti-immigrant sentiment, economic competition with hemp and pharmaceutical industries move us into the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, which didn't effectively ban it, but it taxed it in a way that ultimately led to criminalization. In 1942, cannabis is removed from the U.S. pharmacopoeia. In 1968, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics becomes the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. In 1970, cannabis is officially outlawed due to the Controlled Substances Act. In 1973, the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs becomes the DEA. In 1964, we quietly started to fight back. This man, Raphael Mechoulam, in 1964 isolates THC. In 1988, Alan Howlett and her graduate student, William Devane, identify the first cannabinoid receptor, CB1. In 1992, Mechoulam's team discovers the first endogenous cannabinoid, anandamide. This is the first proof that there is a naturally produced cannabinoid in our bodies. In 1993, CB2 receptor is discovered at Cambridge, and by the late 1990s, the endocannabinoid system is recognized as a complex biological system. And now, cannabis is finally making a comeback as medicine in a world that needs it the most. What do you guys think is going to happen in the future? Let me know down in the comments. Catch you in the next one.